So without any further ado, please help me to welcome Ms. Lara Rabiu, who is the Chief Financial Officer here at the African Leadership Academy.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that warm welcome. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your time with me this afternoon. I usually don't do this, but I think this is the right occasion to actually voice out where I stand in the future of Africa. Over the last 2 days, Africa's finest and friends of Africa have gathered and interacted with each other on this campus, where magical, positive, and radical transformations have happened over the last decade. We have come to celebrate 10 years of ALA, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank the founders, Fred, Acha, Chris, and Peter, and all the people that have worked with us to get us to this stage. But something bigger than ALA has actually brought us together. Its mission and vision for this continent. We have come to action the building of this great continent and lay the next brick. To build not for ourselves, but for our children, grandchildren, and future generations. The last 48 hours has been thought-provoking for me, and I'm sure you've experienced the same. We have listened, argued, problem solved, and got overwhelmed by the depth of critical conversations. Our youth have called us to action. Trevor said, politics is everyone's business. Tana said, if we're not outraged by all the injustice, you're not listening. But I hope in all of this, you, Africa's finest, and friends of Africa have identified, or will identify in the next couple of hours, your position as one of the builders of a thriving Africa. A leadership journey begins with deep commitment. It is a calling beyond oneself to do things that may not necessarily fit in one perfect agenda. My first calling to deepening my commitment started about 5 years ago. It is the type of calling that you get but you ignore because the rational thing to do after business school is to build your own business empire or to join one. The first call came during my first attempt to move to Nigeria in 2011. I was going to go home immediately, in fact, 2 days after business school, to work for ExxonMobil. But first, there was this inevitable year of service that we call NYSC, that all returnees dread, except the crazy ones. And so I prepared my mind, and I was convinced that I was going to be okay. I had expected to be posted to Lagos, a place I'm relatively familiar with, but to my surprise, when I arrived, I realized that I was posted to Oyo State. This threw me off balance as an unusual feeling if you knew me very well. This year of service humbled me and opened my eyes to the depth of issues facing Nigeria as I navigated one broken system after another. I'd heard stories and seen the effect of the system, but I'd never truly experienced it until that point. I had lived my whole adult life in a foreign yet familiar place. Nigeria became so foreign to me that I didn't end up working for Exxon, and I ran back to San Francisco, my familiar and comfort zone. But the yearning to reconnect to Nigeria never stopped. I just needed a better plan that did not involve NYSC. And then, a year later, there comes this guy called Fred Swanica, chasing me around Atlanta. I was actually on an assignment, trying to convince me to come to South Africa, a country I never had in my plans, to take up a 3-month interim CFO position when I had a full-time job. And if you know Fred very well, you can understand this. Somehow, I responded to the second call, and I've never regretted it. I was so captivated by my experience in the first few days on campus, that my months turned into years, interim role turned into deep lifetime commitment, and self turned into Africa. I'm here today with strong conviction about my unwavering role in shaping the continent. Similarly to me, our students and graduates answered the commitment call when they accepted admission to come to ALA. And for most, their commitment to Africa has grown stronger and deeper and more actionable as they've gone through their leadership journeys. I'm sure after meeting them, you too will believe Africa does have a future. Their drive, their tenacity speaks both to and for the conscience of our great continent. This level of commitment I have described requires shedding of oneself and taking up positions of leadership, buying into all the complexities of leadership, and plowing away. Guys and girls, African leadership today is a sweet burden that calls for selflessness, action, and steadfastness. I ask you today to lean in, take the commitment call, and give African leadership the complexities and the action that it calls for. When we have found our deep commitment, we need to take action. This is going to be long and hard, but we must remain steady. We're building lasting institutions. I've only been a part of one, and I know how hard it is. The foundation, the strategies, the processes, the systems, and the one everybody dreads the most, the policies, but they're important. You'll be dealing with moving targets, conflicting ideas, but no matter how frustrating the system makes you, you must take action. The people that have come before us and have taken us this far had to take action. ALA exists because the founders took action. Our alums, as young as they are taking action. In fact, they're some of the greatest minds that the continent does have in this generation. And you, my friends, must take action. And in the words of Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia, it says, "Throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted." That's you and I, guys. The indifference of those who should have known better. We have the tools, that's me and you. The silence of the voice of justice when it matters the most, that has made evil triumph. Selassie was talking to us. I took action when I came to ALA. I took action when I decided to stay at ALA. And I've taken action in building strong systems and processes for ALA so it outlives us. Are you prepared to take action? And when we have committed to being part of this Builders Club and to take action, we need to respect the urgency of the call. See, one of my greatest discovery this year was my encounter with time, and I intend to read a lot about time this year. I read a book called When Breath Becomes Air. The book was many things to me, but for the context of today, it helped me understand that how easy it was to run out of time. Time is enormous, invisible, never gets restored to its initial state, and could be deceiving for procrastinators. But one of the most precious facets about time is its gift of now. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We're now faced with the fact, my friends, that tomorrow is today. We're confronted by the urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such thing as too late. Over the bleached bone of civilization are written the pathetic words, too late. Now let's begin. Let us rededicate our lives to the long," and I changed this a little bit, "beautiful struggle of a new Africa." So at this inflection point, we cannot afford to waste any more time. We need to propel into relentless action and drive that speaks revolution and revival for a continent that seems to be on cruise control. We need to rededicate our energy from suffocating pessimism to buoyant optimism. We need to create a sense of prosperity for this fractured continent. Because the scary thing is, we may be running out of time. Africa now is about sacrifice. It's about putting the continent before ourselves. We're at the place where status quo is scarier and more daunting than the hard revolutionary fight. Africa now is about restoring our dignity to the youthful population near and far. To restore our dignity so that we're not called shithole countries. To restore our humanity so Africans don't feel so hopeless and desperate that they're willing to die just to cross over to the other side of the ocean. We in this room as leaders can influence the curse of humanity through clarity in vision, insightful design, and effective solutions. Africa now is about purposeful education, not schooling, but what we need. We need to educate our youth for our own needs, specifically our development needs. There's no point having 100 million lawyers when they don't have cases to take on. We need to get our human capital ready for this real transformation that I'm talking about. This remains the biggest catalyst for change. Africa now is about committed leadership. We need to identify action-oriented, capable leaders like ourselves who are steady and measured, brave catalysts that can revive our continent. Africa needs trusted driving force to get investors to invest in us, capable Africans in the diaspora to return to us, businesses to expand to us to reach our full potential. Capable hands, African elites, and African privileged. Our people are crying for our greatness. Africa now is about doing it ourselves. Africa has but 20 years to redirect its step, to have the slight chance of reaching its potential. We cannot be complacent or sacrifice excellence or live with only the result of other people's thinking. And we cannot solve our problems with the same logic that we created it. We need to change our mindset and find capable hands. We, as Africans, need to put not skin, but our whole body into the game. So, what part are you going to play? What is going to be your mark in this revolutionary journey? What is the internal big question that will fuel your energy and commitment? What are you going to decide to give to Africa rose and never looked back narrative? On this very day, 24th of February 2018, you will be proud to put in your memoir. What will make the sacrifice worth it for me, Lara Rabiu, is to wake up on February 24th, 2058, to the headline that says, "The work of African Leadership Academy has reached its culmination at the first of its many 50-year marks. The idea that started at a Stanford dorm room in Silicon Valley, California, gave birth to our future. Its graduates are presidents of 25 of the 54 countries. These thinkers, great revolutionists, and bold entrepreneurial leaders have changed the narrative of Africa forever. No matter what your position is or what you're here for today, I want you to think about how you can fuel Africa rose and never looked back, so the continent can reach its full potential. Africans and friends of Africa, why don't you help her rise? Thank you.